Jonathan Hayes had always been a man of routines. As a senior banker at Goldman Sachs, he lived his life by the minute, his days meticulously planned out. Each morning, after his usual workout and a quick scan of the Wall Street Journal, he would drive his 6-year-old daughter, Emma, to her private school in the heart of Manhattan. Today, however, would be different, marked by a chance encounter that would unravel a past he had long buried. It was a crisp autumn morning, the kind that made New Yorkers don their favorite scarves and clutch their coffee cups a little tighter. Jonathan, dressed impeccably in a tailored suit, guided Emma through the throngs of parents and children at St. Mary's Academy. The schoolyard buzzed with the usual morning chaos: children's laughter, parents' hurried goodbyes, and the occasional sound of car horns from the busy street outside. As he bent down to give Emma a kiss on the forehead, something caught his eye. Across the playground, a little girl with curly brown hair and an unmistakably familiar face was laughing with her friends. For a moment, Jonathan's breath caught in his throat. She looked exactly like Emma. Shaking off the eerie sense of déjà vu, he straightened up and scanned the area, his eyes landing on a woman standing by the gate. She was engrossed in a conversation with another parent, her back turned to him. There was something about her posture, the way she held herself, that tugged at his memory. He felt an inexplicable pull to walk over, but his feet seemed rooted to the spot. Just then, the woman turned around, and their eyes met. Jonathan's world tilted on its axis. It was her, Sophia Miller. A decade had passed, but he would recognize her anywhere. They had shared a brief but intense relationship during their college years in Boston, a whirlwind romance that ended abruptly when life pulled them in different directions. She had left without a word, and he had buried the memories deep, focusing on his burgeoning career and the family he eventually built. Sophia's eyes widened in recognition, and for a moment, the noise of the playground seemed to fade into the background. She gave a hesitant smile, her eyes flickering to Emma and then back to Jonathan. He could see the questions in her gaze, the unspoken words that hung heavy between them. "Jonathan," she finally said, her voice a mix of surprise and something he couldn't quite place, perhaps a hint of apprehension. "Sophia," he replied, his own voice betraying the shock he felt. "I can't believe it's you." They stood there for a moment, awkwardly bridging the gap of years with a shared glance. Emma, unaware of the tension, tugged at Jonathan's sleeve. "Daddy, who's that?" she asked, her innocent question breaking the spell. "This is an old friend of mine," he said, still trying to process the coincidence. "Sophia, this is my daughter, Emma." Sophia's face softened as she looked at Emma. "She's beautiful," she said, her voice genuine. "This is my daughter, Lily," she added, motioning to the little girl who was the spitting image of Emma. Jonathan felt a pang of confusion and something deeper, an unsettling curiosity. How was it possible that two little girls, strangers to each other, could look so remarkably alike? And what did this unexpected reunion mean for the lives they had built separately? Before he could ask any more questions, the school bell rang, and the children began to line up for class. Sophia glanced at the time, her professional demeanor snapping back into place. "I have to get to work," she said, a hint of regret in her voice. "But maybe we could catch up sometime? There's so much to talk about." Jonathan nodded, still in a daze. "Yes, absolutely. Let's do that." As Sophia walked away, Lily in tow, Jonathan couldn't shake the feeling that his orderly life had just been thrown into a whirlwind. He watched them disappear into the crowd, his mind racing with questions and a sense of anticipation for the answers that awaited. The drive to his office was a blur, his thoughts consumed by the encounter. What were the chances of meeting Sophia after all these years? And why did her daughter look so much like Emma? Jonathan knew one thing for certain. His life was about to get a lot more complicated. Jonathan spent the rest of the day in a haze, the usual bustle of the trading floor at Goldman Sachs barely registering in his mind. He couldn't shake the image of Sophia and Lily, the uncanny resemblance between Lily and Emma gnawing at him. When he finally left the office, he found himself driving to a small cafe near Central Park, a place he and Sophia had frequented during their time together. Felt like the right place to gather his thoughts. The following morning, Jonathan decided to drop Emma off a bit earlier than usual. He hoped to catch Sophia before she hurried off to work. As luck would have it, he spotted her almost immediately, chatting with another parent near the entrance. This time, he didn't hesitate. He walked over, his heart pounding in his chest. Sophia greeted him with a warm smile, her eyes betraying a mixture of curiosity and apprehension. They exchanged pleasantries, the awkwardness of yesterday still lingering between them. Jonathan wasted no time in suggesting they grab a coffee. Sophia hesitated for a moment, then agreed, glancing at her watch and suggesting a nearby cafe that would be on her way to work. As they settled into a quiet corner of the cafe, the familiar sounds of clinking cups and hushed conversations filled the space. Jonathan took a deep breath, gathering the courage to ask the questions that had been tormenting him since their unexpected reunion. Sophia, noticing his discomfort, decided to break the ice. She talked about her life since college, her career in public relations, and how she had ended up in New York. She mentioned Lily's father briefly, explaining that they had separated shortly after Lily was born. Jonathan listened intently, each piece of information adding to the mosaic of the past decade. Jonathan then shared his own story, from his rapid ascent in the banking world to his marriage to Emily, and the joy Emma brought into their lives. The conversation flowed naturally, the years apart melting away as they reconnected over shared memories and new experiences. Eventually, the conversation turned to the question that had been looming over Jonathan since the previous day. He asked about Lily, trying to mask the urgency in his voice. Sophia hesitated, her expression turning serious. She explained that Lily had always reminded her of someone, but she could never quite place it until she saw Emma. Jonathan's mind raced, the pieces of the puzzle starting to come together. He realized that the timeline of Lily's birth coincided suspiciously with their time together in Boston. He couldn't ignore the nagging suspicion that had taken root in his mind. As the cafe began to fill up with the morning crowd, Sophia suggested they meet again, somewhere more private where they could talk without interruptions. They agreed to meet at a small park near Sophia's apartment the following weekend. Jonathan left the cafe with a mixture of relief and trepidation, knowing that the answers he sought might not be the ones he wanted to hear. The days leading up to their meeting were a blur of work and family obligations, but Jonathan's mind was constantly elsewhere. He found himself studying Emma more closely, looking for any signs that might connect her to Sophia and Lily. The resemblance was undeniable, and it fueled his determination to uncover the truth. When the weekend finally arrived, Jonathan felt a knot of anxiety in his stomach. He drove to the park early, choosing a secluded bench where they could talk without prying eyes. Sophia arrived shortly after, looking equally apprehensive but resolute. They sat in silence for a moment, the sound of children playing in the background providing an oddly fitting soundtrack to their conversation. Jonathan finally broke the silence, asking Sophia the question that had been haunting him. He wanted to know if there was any possibility that Lily could be his daughter. Sophia's eyes filled with a mixture of sadness and resignation. She admitted that she had considered the possibility but had never pursued it, partly out of fear and partly out of respect for the life Jonathan had built. She explained that she had always wondered what might have been, but had chosen to move forward with her life, raising Lily as a single mother. Jonathan felt a wave of emotions: relief, confusion, and a deep sense of responsibility. He knew that a paternity test was the only way to confirm their suspicions, but he also recognized the delicate nature of the situation. They decided to approach it carefully, ensuring that Lily and Emma would be protected from any potential fallout. As they parted ways, Jonathan felt a sense of resolve. He knew that the journey ahead would be complicated and fraught with challenges, but he was determined to face it head-on. The unexpected reunion with Sophia had opened a door to a past he thought he had left behind, and now he had to navigate the uncertain path that lay ahead. Returning home, Jonathan sat down with Emily, explaining everything that had transpired over the past few days. Emily listened, her expression one of concern and support. They agreed to seek professional advice and to proceed with the paternity test discreetly. The following weeks were tense, filled with waiting and uncertainty, but Jonathan knew that whatever the outcome, he would take responsibility and ensure that all involved were treated with care and respect. Finally, the day of the test results arrived. Jonathan met Sophia at the clinic, both of them anxious yet hopeful. The doctor's words confirmed what they had both suspected. Jonathan was Lily's father. The revelation brought a mix of emotions, but there was also a sense of closure and a new beginning. Jonathan and Sophia decided to take things slowly, integrating their families and allowing Emma and Lily to form their own bond. Over time, what started as a shocking coincidence blossomed into a unique, blended family dynamic. Jonathan's life, once governed by routines and order, now embraced the beautiful chaos of unexpected connections and newfound relationships. And so, the story that began with an uncanny resemblance in a schoolyard ended with the promise of a future built on honesty, acceptance, and the unbreakable bonds of family. I hope you liked this story. I put a link down below about something very interesting you will probably like. Check that out. Thank you so much for watching, and subscribe for more amazing stories.